Good afternoon, it's Steve Tolan. I'm here with another episode of Change the Game, and I'm delighted to be today to be joined even by my good friend Mr. Alex Opacic. So Alex and I first met getting on about just on 6 years ago, and it was so funny how I think you're 2 degrees of separation. I hosted an event for one of my former guests, Richard Tomsey, down at Darling Harbour, and in aid of his Guns Out Spinal Foundation. That's where I actually met Alex, and he's hard to miss because he's actually 6'10" compared to my kind of 5'8". So we connected then, and just around that time, he was just in the early stages of launching his business, Athlete to Business. So delighted to have him here today. It's a very unique concept, a very unique business. With Alex, what I really love, he's very candid, very genuine. Like myself, he's very active on social media, and he puts his heart out there. And I really want to kind of delve into this today. And one particular post that he did recently went viral, where he talked about, you know, self-doubt and how his wife really kind of, you know, given that belief in him, and it was a really powerful kind of message. So mate, without further ado, we're going deep right from the off. Thank you very much for joining me.
Happy to be. That's it. That's the episode. You know, everything
Done, we're finished. We're out of here. How you going?
Yeah, good man. Excited to be here. I love what you're doing. We changed the game.
Thank you.
And all your guests. So I'll try to be to live up to the hype, I guess.
Yeah, mate. No. Thank you very much. So mate, I always start off with the kind of 3 W's. Mate, tell us a little bit about who you are. You know, what it is you've kind of done, and why did you kind of embark, I guess, on this athlete to business journey, right? So over to you.
Yeah, so I guess, I started off as a basketball player back in the day, given the height. I know we're sitting down so you can't see, but I'm 6'9", so naturally thrown into the world of basketball. Climbed up the ranks in the juniors pretty quickly, played for Australia in the under-17s World Championships in Germany. They called the Albert Schweitzer tournament. And then, mate, went to the Australian Institute of Sport.
Yeah.
At this stage, you know, it's fairly elite in the sport. All I ever wanted to do was make the NBA and chase my basketball dreams. You know, that was my life. Played college, got lucky enough to get a Division I college scholarship in the US, which was a dream come true.
Yeah.
In fact, when I was coming out of the AIS, I had an offer to play in the NBL professionally for the West Sydney Razorbacks. At that time, if you really wanted to make it in basketball, most commonly the college route was the way to go, and it's just every basketball player's dream. Today it's probably different. If this happened again, I probably would have went down the NBL route, because now there's a lot of NBL players that go to the NBA, but it's highly scouted by NBA scouts as well. But so yeah, mate, 4 years in college, absolutely loved it, had a blast. I mean, yeah, living the dream, and I'm like, okay, let's chase, you know, the pros, let's keep going. Finished up my college career, then played professionally in Europe for a couple of years. My last stop in Croatia, I hurt my knee.
Okay. It
just started spiraling downwards from there. So I ended up having 3 knee surgeries, and was pretty much had to move on from the game. I started playing semi-professionally, but at this time I had to earn a living and get a job as well. Playing semi-professionally doesn't get paid enough. I struggled to find a job, didn't know what to do, where to go, who to turn to for help. You know, where do I provide value into the world now? What's my career going to be? Mate, eventually I landed in sales. At first I hated it.
It's pretty understandable.
Yeah. I hated it. What is this? What am I doing? But mate, eventually I just kept going, and I'm not a quitter. Look, I do, you know, if there's something you absolutely hate and it's not for you, you know, quit. But I don't know, there's something in me that's like, I hate this at the moment, I'm not that good at it, but I think I can be really good at it. I can potentially love it. Eventually I started getting within the right companies. Southern Cross Stereo brought me on. That was my first proper sales job with a company that had proper onboarding structure, learning and development. The companies I was working for prior, we don't need to talk about it, but it wasn't a great experience, probably why I hated sales, right? A lot of it is being in the right culture. Mate, flourished, loved it. Built a very nice sales career for me for the next 8 years. And in that journey, I realized so many athletes that I met were quite successful in sales. And about that time in my journey, I was selling radio advertising and advertising packages to business owners and entrepreneurs, and I started getting the entrepreneurial itch myself. I wanted to do something for myself, and, you know, being surrounded with those people, mate, I came up with the idea of athlete to business because I met so many successful salespeople who were athletes, but I also met a lot of athletes who struggled with the transition like I did, and then I started this business to bridge the gap.
mindset. It's that athlete mindset, right? And apologies, we've got the police probably not coming to shut us down, but the athlete mindset, right? And you talk there about setback, right? You had your heart set on, NBL or what have you, injuries. So talk us through that kind of process. And what is it specifically about? Why do you think athletes make good salespeople?
It's mindset. I think the number one trait is, if I was to pick one, is resilience.
Okay.
Being able to bounce back from setbacks, so in a sales environment, bounce back from rejections, right? As we know, you mostly lose in sales. Like, you're not winning every single deal, otherwise we'd all be millionaires, right? So you need to understand why you've failed, why you've lost, learn from it, go back, pitch again, look for another customer, evaluate your performance, so on the next one you can do better. Sport's similar. Like, most athletes, we lose more than we win most of the time. There's that 1% that make it far into their career and become those names that we know today, but most of us actually lose. And we are okay with failure, we're comfortable with failure, and we know how to bounce back from failure and keep chasing until we win. So
that's a great quote. Most lose, and if you look at the percentages, those that actually kind of make it. So what was the biggest, how did you transition yourself from athlete to business owner? Because they're two very different things. So you can have I'll talk about mindset and mastery, right? You can have great confidence, but if you haven't got the skills, so how was that transition, and what did you kind of underestimate almost going from that world? It's very different.
Yeah, I guess initially going from the athlete world to being a sales rep or a business development manager, what I underestimated the most is time, patience. So what I mean by that is, in sport, it's a ticking time bomb.
Yep.
Like, you've got a certain amount of time to make this successful, right? But if you're not 25, 26 and you're not a professional already, or on everybody's radar, making an impact, like, you're pretty much done. It's a short time period where you can succeed in sport, right? When I initially transitioned, I took that mindset to sales, and this is kind of, at the start I said I struggled and I hated sales initially. As soon as I got into a job, it was like 2 days later, hey, why aren't I winning? Why aren't I closing deals?
Yeah.
Why aren't clients coming to me? Why do I suck at this? What I've learned over time, and now even as a business owner, there's so much time. It's a long road. We can
marathon, not a sprint.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. In the bigger scheme of things, we can narrow it down and say, look, sport's also a marathon, not a sprint. It's a long season, but actually, extrapolate it compared to business. No, sport's actually a sprint. You got 5, 6, 7 years to business, mate. It's a long, long time. So I think, eventually I stopped being so hard on myself. I'm like, okay, let me step back, let me learn, let me fail a lot more here, and just be okay with sucking at this thing, and let me find a company that is okay. That the fact that I don't have the particular sales skills and experience, but they understand my mindset, my willingness to be successful, my drive. I'm coachable. I want to learn. I want to be successful. So I ended up finding a culture that accepts that, and then they turned me into a very good salesperson.
Okay. I mentioned before, straight off the bat, candidness and is that kind of in your DNA? Because if I look at, you share publicly, and I really admire you for this, you openly share the highs and the lows, and you've talked about it, right? You don't win all the time. And I think a lot of people have this, is it almost, it shows weakness to show kind of vulnerability. So kind of talk to us about this. Where does it come from? Because you share the warts and all, right? Like, was that premeditated, or is that just who you are?
I think it's just who I am. Yeah, I think it's almost like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to lose. We all go through tough times. This road's not easy, and I know it's weird to say, especially when I launched my business, because it's such a unique business, placing athletes into sales. It's a unique candidate base. I really wanted to get the business out as much as possible, so I do a lot of content, I do a lot of marketing out there. But one of the things was just naturally started coming to me is to be open and be vulnerable with the struggles, almost like a journey. And weirdly, this is weird to say, but it's almost a little bit like public therapy for me. It's almost like a diary, like, when you write things down, like, you just get it out of your mind. Okay, that's out now. out of my soul. Let me, move on. It's kind of like that, man. Like it's out into the world. It happens, just move on.
Did it feel risky?
Initially, no. It's funny. Somebody asked me this question not too long ago. Initially, because I was so passionate about helping athletes transition into good careers, good companies, and so passionate about waving the flag that like, hey, sales leaders, business leaders, CEOs, you're missing out on this niche candidate base that can be extremely valuable for your business. Like I was genuinely so passionate about that the risk thing didn't even cross my mind. It wasn't until, like, to be honest with you, 2 years into it, where so many people asked me, like, hey, Alex, you run a permanent recruitment business, you don't have recurring revenue, you make a placement, you get paid, you make a placement, you get paid. Is it risky? Is it risky? Hey, did you, and it's, I was ignoring it, but I think as more people in my head, I then started understanding, is it supposed to be risky? Okay, then almost it's like, I'm feeling the risk and the pressure now, but Matt, to be honest, like, I go up and down with it. Sometimes I feel the risk, sometimes I don't. I dance with the fear, as they say.
I love that. But you build trust, right? And I think this is one of the things that we keep talking about, particularly in recruitment, right? It is, and it always will be, a people industry, right? A contact kind of sport. And those who are hiding behind technology or email, etc. And I see this time and time again, the power of the personal brand now, where it's like, people want to see that it's okay to not be, like almost in sport where people feign, do you know what I mean? Like where they kind of keep, how can I kind of put this? You can't hide bad form in sport, but in business everyone's like, it's okay,
Yeah, I think especially in the world of AI and everything looking so perfect, I think it's important to get your personal brand and your own personality out there to stand out. It's funny, I was talking to someone we both know the other day. I won't put his name under the bus, but he was mentioning, because I was like, hey man, do you use ChatGPT for your content, or for your written content? He goes, oh yeah, sometimes. It's like, sometimes you can just tell, and I don't want to outsource my thinking to a robot. Do you mean? I feel that. Like, I feel like the more I use ChatGPT, the more I lose my creativity. But anyway, he goes, sometimes I'll get lazy and I'm like, I just can't think right now. Let me go to ChatGPT. And then what I'll do to make it look more authentic, I'll make mistakes on purpose. Like I'll spell the word wrong. So, do you know what I mean? So it tells you that, like, all the ChatGPT...
Is this where we've got to?
You know what I mean? Like,
Jesus Christ.
All the ChatGPT stuff, like... Now there's, I want to use ChatGPT, but how do I not make it look like ChatGPT? Let me make some mistakes on the spelling that people will know it's not Chat. Like, it's insane, isn't it? Like, I think just be yourself.
Just be authentic.
Be authentic.
Be authentic.
But I like that trick if you do get lazy.
It wasn't me, by the way. It wasn't me. I'm not that smart. Talk us back through, so late 2020, you kind of kicked off. I know it's, you talk about you built 300K at year one. Talk us through those kind of early days, right, when you're kind of... And probably more so, what were the challenges, right? Everyone talks about the wins, but what were some of the challenges that you kind of had to persevere through?
Yeah, it was early on. I didn't really have a huge network, and again, it was such a niche offering that I was putting it into the market. It's quite different, which was a challenge, but at the same time as an advantage, because I look different. It's something different, and that catches people's eyes.
Stood out, yeah.
I stood out, but early on, mate, I went gun ho on content. Like the number one thing that helped me grow the business from in year one to 300K in billings, just by myself, was content and business development. I'd post every day, sometimes twice a day, and then I would see who's liking who's liking the posts, who's commenting, who are they connected to, and I would just hit them up on the phone. Hey, nice you engage with my content, appreciate it. If you're looking to hire athletes or high-performing salespeople, I'll be happy to help. Like, even got to the point where I was cold calling, and the person answering was like, hey, I know who you are, Alex from Athlete to Business. I've seen you. Yeah. We don't need people at the moment, but stay in touch. Okay. So, you know what I mean? Like, they already knew who I was, but in my mind, I'm cold calling. And that gave me so much confidence.
This is the power of social selling, right? The brand and the consistency. And you, again, similar to you do this really well in terms of, because people, if they project stuff out and then they meet you in person, you're totally different. you're screwed. But you, I think, and this is what people want to say, like authentic. You build trust, right, and people get a sense of what it's like to build to have a working relationship with you, which is so important. And I just want to, we talk about this, but I remember you went through a period, because I remember you scaled.
Yes.
And you had a team, right? And we know this in recruitment. Everyone thinks that the definition of success is having loads of people, right, and building a team. But to be blunt, you downscale. You also, so mate, talk us through that kind of journey, because it mustn't have been easy, but I think I'd love to hear in your own words going through that journey.
I mean, I scaled pretty quickly from 2020 to 2022. I scaled to 6 people in the business, essentially. And I think now we know, during that time was a massive post-COVID boom. And at the time, no one knew that this is an anomaly and I just started a recruitment company in 2020. What do I know any better?
Yeah.
I'm like, we're killing it here. Let's hire more people, bring them in. That's one. So it was a bit of a false market too, right?
Yeah.
I
mean, you look at the job index and like that. To that,
yeah, it was insane, and then plummeted down. Quickly as well. But at the same time, I wasn't. I was about to say I wasn't ready for that level of scale. Now, 6 people is at a huge level. For me, it is. Like I've never really actually. I've mentored people in my sales career. I wasn't officially a manager of X amount of people reporting to me. Never really wanted to get into management, to be completely honest. I like being an individual contributor. I like being a performer. There's typically more commission as well in sales. I like money. You can make a lot of money as a leader as well, but I just enjoyed being the guy that's bringing in the numbers. But I just wasn't ready for that level of leadership.
What did that kind of downsizing teach you about leadership? And blunt question, did it hurt your ego?
It didn't actually. I don't know. It's weird. I'm not. You know what? It's a good question. It didn't hurt my ego. I think when I scaled to that level, I had this big imposter syndrome.
Wow.
Right? Like, whoa, this is people are calling me boss. I'm not a boss.
Yeah.
And I think it was more of a lesson that I almost needed to have a little ego or almost needed to be a little bit more confident than when I was at the time, right? In my mind, I'm like, this is, I'm leading these people and I've got to make sure they're performing. I've got to pay payroll, people, my team had kids. I think I put a lot of pressure on myself. But so one lesson was, as weird as it is to say this now, is almost I earned that. I built a business. I earned that level of leadership, but so I think that the mindset. It's funny I sell mindset, right? But I just being honest, I don't think my mindset was right at the time with being a leader. But more importantly, somebody said to me, a wise man once said to me, anxiety and stress and uncertainty in business is just a cause of a lack of strategy. That's it. It's plain and simple. And I met this person after I downsized, and I take that to everything I do these days. So what I learned is when I grew the business, I had no systems and processes, and I didn't really have a great clear strategy on how to grow it from here, how to lead people. Simple as that. That's it, right? So what I learned is it's funny, I'm at a stage now where I'm slowly starting to grow and hire people, but I know the right strategy I need to put in place, I know the right process I need to put in place. I'm a lot more, so I guess, going through that failure of trying to grow and lead today is good for me, because now I know what not to do and what to do.
That's an old quote, right? You win or you learn.
That's it.
Like simple thing, and again, everyone says in winning, what do you learn? You learn so much from the losses, right, or the experiences. And I think back myself and go, what did I do? Why didn't that work? And it was the same in sales. If you look back, often, why didn't you win this particular opportunity? There's something, right? I didn't know enough people, or I wasn't hitting it. I didn't really understand. So, no, I appreciate you sharing that. And I want to talk about, again, the brand, because you've been really consistent about this. And you've also, like you said, you've pivoted quite a few times, right? But brand is so important to you. So I guess, what does brand kind of mean to you? Because when I speak to people about personal brand. I get this, they go, I'm not showing pictures of the kids or the dog and stuff, and I'm going, that's not. So what does personal brand and what does the brand actually mean to you?
I think it's values that you exuberate. It's what you are as a person. It's hard to define values, but it's like just what you value in people, what you value in business, who you want to work with, who you don't want to work with. I think that kind of brand, that makes it clear. And it's got to be a positive connotation towards your brand. And when I mean positive, I mean is like, good positive values. Like that's what Athlete to Business is about. That's what Alex is about. That's what I try and get out there with brand. And I think, through content and videos and various different written content that I do as well, I just try and keep that top of mind.
And I think everyone would say the experience with you, it's consistent, right? You know what I mean? And I think you do that really well. And there's a lesson there. How you portray yourself and the experience, etc. That's the authenticity. So I'm going to bring you on to talk a little bit about kind of family and fear of failure. And the post that you put up, was it just after Christmas? Or was it before Christmas?
Just before Christmas.
Okay, and it went pretty much viral. I remember last time I saw it, had about 1,000 kind of likes. And it was the post with your wife, and I remember, and it was so open, like you were talking about some of the dark times in business, mate. Do you mind sharing that, in terms of the thought process? Because again, I can only admire you kind of go in there, right? Because it's pretty deep. Whereas again, most people would probably, I'm not sharing that or whatever. But I think again, talking about trust, it was so powerful.
No, it is. I think it almost was around 100,000 views, which I wasn't expecting or anything. It was just kind of again sharing my story and journey. But when I downsized with the business that 23. Start of 24 period, the market was pretty bad at the time. I'm not going to just blame the market. As I mentioned, I wasn't ready for that level of scale that I had. So I burnt a lot of cash in the business, and then I just needed to, once I scaled down, I almost needed to go back to 2020, and it's like go hero mode, content, business development, and it wasn't growing as fast as it was in 2020. And it was start of about March 2024, started 2024. I lost another deal, and then I just called my wife, and I was like, I'm done. Like, this is a stupid way to live, right? Like, this is just, I can't just rely, recruitment, we rely on people a lot, and a lot of people aren't reliable, right? And I'm like, I can't do this anymore, She called me up, said, where are you? I'm like, I'm just left office, I'm walking around like a headless chook, not sure what to do here. She's like, I'll come meet you. She was at work. She drove down, and we just had lunch, and she just kind of just lit a fire up my ass, to be honest. Yeah, she was like, you've built it this far, you've come this far, keep going. So I did, which was amazing. And she kind of said, no matter what happens, I've got your back. Even if this thing fails and we've got to sell our home, it's fine. Like, I've got your back. I'm like, oh, that's good. That's good. All right. So, and then 3 months later, same thing, man. Like, I lost a few more deals. It was an emotional roller coaster then because cash flow was low. I've just come back from downsizing my team, so confidence was a little low as well. And I'm thinking about family, paying mortgage, kids. I'm like, no, it's time for me to get a proper job and do this thing. And again, she talked me out of it. There was one more time I had the conversation. She talked me out of it. And then, mate, I haven't looked back since. Just been going gun-ho and building the business, and here we are, ready to scale again.
Yeah, mate, it's brilliant, man. Like, and it's it's a fantastic story, and it was glad it got the attention it rightly deserved, right? Like, you know what I mean? And in those kind of dark, like, even now when strength comes through, like, overcoming adversity, right? So now, hopefully, you don't have any more kind of dark times. But what was the lesson that you took from that? Was it back in yourself, or was it that you got the back of your wife?
It's funny, actually. The lesson that I got from that is be ready for the dark time. Look, not so dark like that, I'm ready to quit, but like be ready for the down times. And we're in a boxing gym here, but it's funny. There was a saying that I watched a lot of motivational things and content, but in the business environment, somebody said if 3 months have gone by and things are going really nicely and you're doing well in business and in life, you will get punched in the mouth very soon. Like in life, like you just get punched in the mouth sooner or later. Like it will happen. Just going back to that athlete mentality and the mindset that I mentioned, like you lose a lot more. So I think to answer this question, I'll give you another quick story. A friend of mine about people being unreliable. a friend of mine asked me just the other day, because I talked to him about recruitment, like that candidate pulled out of a role and this happened and that happened. And he said, hey man, have the candidates gotten better here in Australia? You know, are they more easier reliable? Are they easier to deal with? And I said, no, it's the same. But you know what? I've gotten a shitload more resilient, and I understand how to deal with people, and I'm completely fine with 13 candidates saying no and client pulling the job because I've got more. You know, I know how to get them. I'm just way more resilient in dealing with it. That's it.
Yeah. Control what you can control, right? That's to say, look, it's on you. No, I like that.
Yeah.
So in terms of, when we kind of talked about this before, but you know, obvious the mentality from sport, but talk to us about kind of feedback again, because we touched on this, but feedback in sport is constant.
Yeah.
And as you've said, and I can completely get it, you're dealing with candidates and clients and stuff, and it's very hard at times where if someone said in the sporting contest, Alex, run as fast as you can, you know exactly what you got to do. Or swim, right? If you have to swim there and you win. But in a business sense, there'd be sharks in the water and there'd be everything, right? So it's kind of quite different. So how does that kind of translate in terms of the feedback? Because you can't control everything.
No, I think the biggest thing with feedback from sport to corporate, I think there's not enough, from leaders specifically, there's not enough feedback in business. It's just I don't have an answer to that. It's not, you know, in sport there's feedback every 5 minutes. Coach yelling at you, you take a time out, and you know, it's constantly what can you improve on. Where in corporate it's not like that. So I think as an individual, like, one of the best things I've done, mate, is I've gotten a business coach for the business. He's been a tremendous help. And I always ask him for feedback and what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? What am I doing really well? And I should dive into, you know, and it's not like he's watching me on the phone or, you know, performing in business all day, every day, but I'm aware of what I'm doing and I give that, hey, this is what I've done this week, this didn't work, that didn't work, and then I just let him be, you know, I'm an open book, tell me what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing right. So I think as an individual in business, we need to seek feedback more. I learned that, you know, later on in my sales career. It's just not there in sport. And I think also in as leaders, we need to be accepting of people's vulnerabilities when they ask for feedback, and you know, and I'm struggling, I want to do better. And I say that because I'll give you a quick story. One time in my sales career, I went to a sales director and said, listen, I'm struggling. You're a sales director, you've been here for a long time, you're really good at what you do. Can I borrow an hour of your time? I just want to pick your brain apart on how you did so well in your career and I want to do better. I was fired the next day. And you know, as a sales recruiter, mate, this happens more often than you think now that I'm, you know, working with people. So I think that's a load of shit too. Like, so I think we just got to, as leaders, you know,
grace.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not great.
But it happens.
It does happen. It
happens
does happen
more than you think.
And I try in myself, even with coaching, you practice what you preach, right? Helping others is a gift, particularly when you're in a lead. The opportunity to help others is a gift. So one of the things I wanted to kind of just come to is just kind of wrapping up last kind of couple of questions, but your business again has kind of grown and you've kind of taken it globally, and I know you've had a couple of high profile kind of recruits, right? You've worked in the US, so talk to us about that.
Yeah, I placed a couple of NFL players over there, track and field, college, graduate student athlete college players, and a retired soccer player and a few more on the books as well. But yeah, it's starting to make a bit more noise in the US. My type of business is, I wouldn't say common in the US, but there are other businesses like mine in the US, because they're, the corporate world over there is a huge admirer of student athletes, especially. They're a, you know, number one recruit, let's get a student athlete. So naturally, my business brand is just more accepted over there. So I've always had, I knew this from day one because I played college basketball in the US, so I know what it's like. I always had the ambition to go over there. So yeah, we're slowly starting to make tracks in the US.
What's one mindset rule that you live by?
Resilience. Just resilience.
Should have expected that one.
Yeah, just suck it up, you know. Just do it.
And ask for help. Not everyone is gonna fire you.
Yeah. Ask for help. Yeah, not everyone's going to fire you. Don't. And you know what? If they do fire you, if you ask for help,
go and speak to Alex if you get fired.
Well, yeah, speak to me and I'll get you a better job. But I think if you ask for help and they fire you, they just did you a favor.
Yeah, did you a favor.
They did you a favor. You don't want to be in that scenario. You don't want to be in that place.
Yeah, fair enough. My advice to anyone kind of doubting themselves, because you've been on that journey, right?
Yeah. I think it's patience. Mentally, if I give you advice, it's patience. But technically, if I give you some advice, is go back to the basics.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to go back to the basics. You know, in 2020, when I started my business coach said, stick to 2-2-4. All right? So 2-2-4, 2 hours of business development, 2 hours of candidate sourcing, and 4 hours of everything else. So it's admin, setting up interviews, follow-up emails. If you do that day in, day out, you should be successful, right? And I ended up building 300K. As the team grew and things started coming in, my 2-2-4 went out the window because I didn't have time, other things happening, right?
Yeah.
This is what I mean about processes, systems. It's like, well, what's my new 2-2-4? I don't know. Let's figure it out as we go. Yeah. Too late. Burning cash as I'm figuring it out. When I was down and out, man, I just went back to the basics. I just went back to 2-2-4. Yeah. So it's not, now have I figured out what the scale version of 2-2-4 is? I think so. We'll wait and find out. Let's see in 2 years or a year's time how this goes. But just go back to the basics.
I made one final question. That's actually not it. Are you happy?
I am. Yeah. Look. I genuinely look. I'm content with what I'm doing. Is probably the better answer. In terms of happy. Like I love what I do. I wake up and I'm like, well, I'm doing a business that's purposeful. I have genuine passion about it, and this is my 9 to 5. Like I'm stoked about that.
On that note, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's been a really uplifting conversation. So many things I could pick apart on that one. Talking about authenticity, candidness. Alex, and I said this before, one of the reasons I wanted to come on. He shares the warts and all. Like it's ups and downs. In business, it's not a V. It's probably a W. You've got to deal with those kind of the lows, and the lows will set you up for success. I talked about having someone there who's in your corner, and I can definitely resonate with me having your wife who's there who's backing you when times kind of get tough. So much to kind of take away, and that kind of the mindset piece again. So I really appreciate your time. Thanks very much. Thank you, Alex. It's been fantastic. I'll see you again soon.